to start.
Well, I'm happy to be here. And if any of you are joining us for the first time, my name's Cheryl Cortese, and I'm a national marketing director with the Juice Plus Company. And that has been now for 33 and a half years, which still is amazing. And I appreciate the stories so much. And I think for all of us, and especially me, I thought I was going to cry when Robin started crying because I look back on my own career of all these years, and the hardest challenge was really facing my own fears. I think for all of us, when we come to that point as we grow, I believe, and it was a huge growth process for me because we all want that comfort zone where we don't have to face our fears. And I think that this is, we often hear about this business that it's not just a business, it is a growth business. It's what do they call it, a self-development course disguised as a business. I've heard that before. So again, I think just a wonderful way for us not only to enjoy a business that's fulfilling, but enjoy the community and the support that goes along with it. Tonight, I wanted to talk with you all about really things that are foundational that we don't talk about often. We talk frequently about our product and the power of the product, and I think all of us can, really, we have that great security and belief in that. Juice Plus is nearly 30 years old now. Huge amount of research behind it. That's gold standard, placebo controlled, just the type of research that is totally recognized by all the scientific world. So that belief in our product is very strong. Certainly our marketing model over the years has proved over and over to pay extremely well. So our business is one that's very secure. Our company's 50 years old. We're in our 51st year now. The founder, Jay Martin, started it. It's still his baby today. So we have that great security that goes along with stability and longevity that not many companies in any phase of business can claim. And that gives us all a great deal of security. So tonight I wanted to talk about the other part. There's the product, there's the marketing model, and then there's you. There's me that has to deal with me and what my life and my fears and my worries and all of us, we have those things, our families, time, how we deal with it. And so, if we look at just this from a business standpoint, and we say, well, what makes money? Well, certainly when we share our products with others and they buy it, there's money made there. As we grow our teams, there's money made there. And that's usually where, people kind of stop and say, well, that's where money's made. That's where it makes. But there are a few other things that are very powerful and important in foundational in our business as far as what makes money. Belief in your product, your business, yourself. That's what we're talking about. As we face our fears, those are the things that really begin to strengthen our belief in ourselves, our belief in what we have to offer, and we're going to talk about that tonight. And also attitude, our attitude about who we are, what we're about, what we have to offer. And then one of the most powerful and important things as far as what makes money is positive belief and positive self-talk. And you control your mind or your mind controls you. So I'm going to talk about that part tonight, that is the you factor in the business, because it's just as vital and important as the price of the product, the commission on the product, the marketing model and how well it pays. These things are all huge as far as your results are concerned. And you hear people talk about those defining moments. Again, I'm going to go back to Robin. She had a very defining moment that she described, and defining moments are usually deep heartfelt. So we come across those as we grow. a quote that I start the Q School with often is, the quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence, regardless of their chosen field of endeavor. And so really from the very beginning, it's what commitment are you going to make, or agreement you're going to make with yourself, that's going to really become foundational to your business. And there are really only two things that create change in our lives, and that would be desperation or inspiration. And usually when those defining moments happen, you're deeply immersed in one of these two things, desperation or inspiration. And hopefully inspiration is where, you find yourself, but desperation isn't without merit, and can certainly bring major and dramatic changes in your life, just as inspiration can. So for me, my beginning of my business, it was a very desperate time. It was a very desperate time financially. It was a very fearful time. And that's maybe, I guess you would say, what kicked it off, because I had to do something about my situation financially. But inspiration follows, and that's what's great, is that inspiration can play a huge, powerful part as well, and it always follows that step up from desperation. So first, let's talk about belief, because belief is a very powerful word. Now, belief is one of the strongest words in our language. And it's because it means the heart is involved. If you look at strong spiritual belief, strong belief of any type, there is a heart connection there if that belief is strong and stable. Now, we can measure speed and strength and intelligence and a host of other things, but you can't measure the heart. This is where drive comes from, desire, want to. All of those things come from deep-seated belief. Positive believing is something that goes beyond even positive thinking. And it's really what gives you freedom. And it also is where your confidence comes from. And it gives you that freedom and confidence to truly use your abilities at the highest level. So again, I've said this often before, is that our business is a skill, and anyone can learn a skill. And there are things that you can do as far as belief and attitude and positive thinking that help bring those things about. So really, positive believing involves a new dimension that brings your heart into the picture. And how often have we heard people say, company with a heart, that was heartfelt. We love the stories because we hear the heart. We're a community of people who are heart-centered. The word heart shows up very frequently in what we do and what we're about. And really, it's that heart feeling that fuels the passion that moves you from having a job, just a, job, as they say, to really having a life. And I think that's the beauty of what we have to offer, is that we really do, with our community, our company, our mission, we really have a life. So attitude or skill, it's really your attitude. Is it that determines your success? So the question is it attitude or skill that determines success? Well, skill is important, but skill alone will not take you to the top, much less keep you there. Extremely skilled individuals will actually negate their skills if their attitude is negative. And this is huge because, you have control over it, because you have control over your thinking, but your skills will not serve you to the highest ability in which you can draw on them if your thinking is negative. So when attitude is positive, a person can effectively use his skills and maximize his performance. Positive attitude plus skill really equals amazing results. So let's talk about attitude, and then we're going to talk about positive thought. Attitude is more important than facts. It's more important than the past or the future, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. So your attitude is more important than what other people think or say or do. It's more important than appearance, gifted ability, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. So attitude is, again, baseline. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude that you will embrace. And this is something that I've found over my careers that I have to work on. You know, it's part of, I guess, my monitoring of myself. We really can't change our past. We cannot change, the fact that people will act a certain way or do a certain thing. We can't change the inevitable. I couldn't change that Katrina destroyed my house 15 years ago, and we couldn't change that COVID became, a huge thing across the world. The only thing we really can change and have control over is our attitude and our thinking. It's often said that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. And so it is with this that we say we are in charge of our attitudes. So now let's talk about attitude, positive or negative. Attitude is greatly shaped by influence and association. There are two parts to influence. First, influence is powerful. And second, influence is subtle. You wouldn't let someone push you off course or, blatantly just negate what you truly believe. But you might let someone nudge you off course if you don't realize that it's happening. So you have to consistently ask yourself, who am I around? What is the conversation? What are they doing or saying? What do they have me reading? What do they have me saying? Where do they have me going? What do they have me thinking? Most important, what do they have me becoming? So if you look at, and I've heard this often too, that we are the summation of the 5 people that we, are around the majority of the time. So again, you want to ask yourself, where all these questions are concerned, is it okay? If you look at your surroundings, and of course we've been pretty isolated lately, but again, it's what's the input? And I think for me, what I have to monitor the most is media input. That to me is the hardest thing to deal with. And actually, I realized many years ago that I could only take so much media input because, again, it's usually never positive. It's usually negative. So I've had to really be strict with myself and be, you might say, the gatekeeper at the door of my mind as far as what's allowed in and what am I going to really inspire myself with because I let it in or have to digest if it's something that is not really positive. So if you think about it, the ultimate thief of your future success is the negative self-talk that comes about from negative input. A successful future cannot afford the luxury of one negative thought. Now, that's a big order, okay? A big order, especially today, because negativity tends to be all around and is sensationalized in so many different ways. The media, there's usually not just one commentator telling you something, there are 2. And so that seems to make it the consensus of opinion of the world. And just because we all tend to, and it's normal, listen to what, is shared with us, then what do? We learn to report the negative. And then you report it to yourself. So I've found that I've had to be very careful about not reporting the negative to myself and to keep that barrier as far as not taking too much in. It's one of the things I learned from my sponsor, Jeff Roberti, too, whether he realized it or not. We didn't have this actual conversation, but he would often, if there was no way that he was going to allow the conversation to be a negative conversation, it didn't matter if we talked about actual problems, that was okay, but it was what we were going to do to resolve them. But as far as negativity, that has never been allowed in a conversation that I've ever had with him. And it's one of the things I realized I had to provide for myself as well, was that barrier to keep a positive attitude and not let unnecessary negative take me over. So successful people see possibilities. Unsuccessful people tend to see problems. But this all happens in the conversation that you're having with yourself. And your conversation that you have with yourself is the most ongoing, consistent. You're the person you talk to the most in your mind all day long. And so it's really, you're the one who's making the choice as to whether that thought process is going to be positive or negative. So really and truly, your opportunity does not lie in the product, the marketing plan, the company, your upline or your downline. It lies in your ability to see possibilities instead of problems and act on those possibilities. And those possibilities come about with a positive thought, with choice of gratitude instead of complaint, things of that nature. So attitude and self-talk really go hand in hand. How do you maximize a winning attitude and ensure positive self-talk? It's actually done by what you feed your mind and therefore your subconscious on a daily basis. So I've read that it's the subconscious is kind of like a computer that picks up everything all around you all the time, and it gets stored. So what you feed yourself kind of gets locked in there. And you want to make sure that you feed yourself things that are going to support a positive attitude. So what goes into your mind affects your thinking affects your performance, and your performance affects your future. Self-talk. And this is something that has really proven itself to me over the years. We're all so much more powerful than we realize. The majority of the people in the world don't have any idea that they already possess the qualities necessary for outstanding success. We all do. We use so little of the gray matter or the brain power that we have. And there's so much more available to us than I think any of us will ever get to. Do we sometimes give ourselves a personal impression of who we are that's not accurate? And if there's any one thing, and we talk about this in Q School with our when we do our advanced training in the summer with those people who've gone to senior sales coordinator in Q, is that if we think about it, there are impressions that were left with us either in childhood or as we grew into teens, begin to take on our lives, that maybe were not accurate. I had, because I was a sickly little child, I grew up with the idea that I was fragile, that I was not really well, that I didn't have a lot of strength or ability for any type of endurance. And that turned out to be totally wrong. When push came to shove, I did. Okay. And that was like, one day I'll never forget it. Someone said to me, we were talking about being athletic. And I said, well, I'm not athletic at all. And they said, well, that's interesting because I've noticed that you do this, this, or this. And I thought, well, that's true. I guess maybe I'm a little more athletic than I thought. And then another time, because I thought I was really very low energy, and that was the impression I had of myself, and that I didn't. And someone said, "Boy, you have a lot of energy and endurance." And I'm thinking, who are they talking about? And so sometimes it has to be pointed out that you have strengths that maybe you are not aware of, or that you suppress because somebody made a comment or there was an impression that was made at a time when you were very impressionable, as I said, in childhood or growing up. So you might just think about all your strengths, because often we're led to look at what our difficulties or our weaknesses might be instead of our strengths. And I think it can be very, very important to to really look at the strengths instead of the weaknesses, and to even make a list of what your strengths are, and to listen to what other people compliment or comment on as far as strengths are concerned. So if we think about positive thought, and again, you are the only thinker in your universe, okay? You can, as I tell my grandson, your thoughts belong to you. You are totally in control of your thoughts. And so we all are. We can really precondition our mind to success. You can actually forecast what your future failure or success will be by the thinking that you engage in. So whatever your thinking is how it will go. And there's a deep tendency in human nature to become precisely what we habitually imagine ourselves to be. Imagination is the art or science of projecting an image. You might call it imaging. Really, imagining, if you break the word down, it's imaging. And the sort of image of yourself you hold is very important, for that image will become a fact. Now, I'll have to share with you, I guess it's been about maybe 12 years ago, about 12 years ago. Lauren LaHave has been in my business about that long, and maybe she'd been in it about a year. And I went to a boot camp there in Las Vegas, and she wanted to do a vision board. And I thought vision boards are ridiculous, cutting little pictures out of magazines and taping them on a board. I mean, what does that do? But she had to kind of go along with the group. And so she had all these magazines, and I said, okay, I'll give this my best shot. So we put this vision board together, and it's still in my closet because when I go in the closet every morning to get my clothes, I'll see it. Everything on that vision board has come true. It just absolutely fascinated me. But it's because it was the impression of seeing it every day. The subconscious picks it up and, begins to produce it, I guess, because from everything I've read, that's supposed to be what happens. But it really works. It actually works. It didn't happen overnight, but everything that was on that vision board came about. So positive thinking definitely requires training. It requires perseverance. It's not something like when you acquire it, it's there forever. I think it's something that you have to continually work on. And it's not easy to discipline, but it pays really, really well. Our thinking habits have to be trained by a deliberate learning process to react the way we want to react when we're faced with life's problems, or when we want to grow, or when we want to succeed. So our mind has to be trained to think positively. And if you think about it, really, our society trains us to think negatively because we listen to, and you need to know the news. I've tried to curtail it as much as I possibly can, but you want to make sure that you are disciplining that. So if I look at, myself, how do I do this? Again, it's what I read. So how do successful positive thinkers keep their lives relaxed and prosperous? They study their own successes. And this, I think, is huge, is to look at, really not only to be proud of yourself as success happens, to look back on, what were the good things in this year. My grandson was telling me, he said, we learned a lot in this last year as far as this whole problem that the earth is having, this whole illness. He said, We learned we really, really appreciate our families and the people who are in our family. We learned we appreciate our friends because we don't get to see them. And he said, if God will just let it be over, I'll thank him for those lessons forever. So he's 9 years old, but at any rate, he's had about enough. Uh, People who are positive minded are usually part of strong, like-minded teams. So it would be important to align yourself with people who think like you do, who are like-minded, because strength comes from that too. But also being a part of a team is very important because we realize whether in our business or in life, you can't do everything alone. They know that, real source of strength comes from that consistency of having strong community. And really, the bigger and more prosperous people become, if they're positive thinkers, they usually become more humble as they grow. So I'd like to share with you how I work at doing this, and because it's paid off for me. I'm happier. Um, I think gratitude has probably brought me more happiness. I came across a book many years ago. The name of it was Gratitude, A Way of Life. And it encouraged you to, really right before you go to sleep and right when you wake up in the morning, list all the things you're grateful for. You could write it, but I try to do it while I'm still in a sleepy state, from the largest to the smallest, or the smallest to the largest, whether it's, you're healthy and you're well, and so is your family, the bed's comfortable, whatever. But that activity has brought me more happiness, more peace than I think anything that I've ever done for myself. And if I drift away from it, I realize that things don't go quite as well as, or at least I don't feel like they do. The other thing, and I came across this probably 20 years ago. This is probably my third or fourth copy, and it's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And it's the best book for me that I've ever used. The author's name is Dr. Joseph Murphy. So The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And it really talks about how you can control your thought and the power of positive thought and the impression that makes, and how you can redirect things that might not have served you well as far as negative input during your life. And he's written a number of others. I will tell you though, this is what my book looks like. The Power of the Subconscious Mind. You can tell I read it frequently. Actually, the first page and the last page is so worn that I've had to put clear tape over it, and it's kind of lost its cover. So when it gets about this bad, I usually get another copy because I read a little bit of it every day so that it reminds me that I have to keep myself in that thought process. And he's written a number of others. Think Yourself Rich, and that's all the riches of life, not just material or financial or money. It's people. It's your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, your mental, and your financial life. It's all of it. He's another one. Think Yourself to Health, Wealth, and Happiness. These are all really to encourage and help you to keep that positive mindset, because not only does it put you in a better state, but it brings a joy that then transfers to other people, which is foundational to the type of profession that we're in. So hopefully sharing this tonight has been of some help or encouragement. It is the best thing I've found to do for myself in keeping myself stable and grounded, and really laying that foundation that makes a difference as far as my own business is concerned. So I think we're about out of time. Next time next week, we'll hear from another surprise national marketing director. I'll try to keep people coming to give you input. I think everybody enjoyed our speaker from Australia last week. She was right on with a lot of good information as well. But really think about, and again, one other example I wanted to give you is that anytime you're in a situation where you feel disappointed, rejected, we all do, in, in our business, in our lives. I try to catch the thought, because you're going to have a thought that will go across your head that you probably won't even realize, which is the subconscious reaction to that and how that feeling comes about. And so try to catch that thought. Um, because if it's a negative thought, you can reprogram it by making sure every time you do feel rejected or disappointed, that you plug in a positive thought right away. And in Joseph Murphy's book, he talks about this, the ability to reprogram your subconscious as far as making sure that you catch the positive thoughts to reinforce those, and you also catch the negative ones to eliminate them. So hopefully this has been of help to you. It's been a big thing within my own business as far as making a difference. So let's have a great week. We'll look forward to talking to you again next week. Always, the stories are wonderful, and it is the foundation of our business. So it's a wonderful place to bring people to hear them. And we want to thank Carol Turnbow and Josh Duhon for continuing to keep this Thursday night alive and well, and all of you for joining us. Good night, folks.
Awesome. Thank you, Cheryl.
Good night, Aunt Cheryl. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Wonderful.
Say good
Thank
night.
you.
Good
Good
night.
night, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Night. Good to
Thank you,
see everyone.
Cheryl.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.